Hi, my name is Maurice, and for this video I'm going to be creating a demo for Blade Templating Engine for a Laravel framework for PHP. This Blade Templating Engine is one of the features packaged with Laravel that allows for quick and easy creation of template HTML for your Laravel projects. Blade is similar to the component building style of popular front-end JavaScript frameworks like Angular or React, and that it allows you to build parts or components as HTML templates and combine them together in different ways to make the final views for your web app. Unlike other PHP templating frameworks, Blade doesn't restrict you from using regular PHP code in your templates, and all of the templates are pre-compiled into PHP by Laravel, so there's no overhead costs associated with using Blade as opposed to using any other framework or using regular PHP files. One of the big benefits of using Blade is something called template inheritance. Unlike Angular or React, each component of a Blade template inherits all the variables of its parent, meaning that if a variable is available to a view as a whole, it's therefore available to all of the children components without needing to create bindings or callback methods to pass the variables from one component to another. So in this video, I'll go over some of the basic features of Blade, starting by putting together a basic web page template from multiple smaller pieces, and then we'll talk about passing in variables and displaying data, and some logical control structures like if statements and for loops. So as a starting point for this video, I've already set up a Laravel installation on a Microsoft Azure project. So Laravel is all set up and a default project has been created. This is the default web page that Laravel builds for you as a starting point for the project. So I'm going to be manipulating all the files directly on the Azure servers through FTP using WinSCP, and I'll be editing the files with Notepad++. So to begin, let's take a look at the directory structure that Azure and Laravel have created for us. So this is the root directory of the FTP that Azure provides. So I'm going to go into the site folder and then the www root folder. And then my app is here called Dog App. If we open that up, we'll see a bunch of folders and files generated by Laravel for us. The ones we're concerned with for this demo is the routes folder, and in the resources, we got a views folder as well. So let's take a look at the routes first. So in the routes folder, we're going to open up web.php. I'm going to open that with Notepad++. And we'll see that the default state is we've got a single route pointing to the base URL, and that route points to the view welcome. So the view welcome is found in resources and views as welcome.blade.php. So that's the naming convention for Blade Templating Engine. You do viewName.blade.php. So we're actually not going to use the welcome view. We're going to set up a different folder structure where the routes that the pages that are pointed to by a route directly are going to be known as pages. So I'll create a pages folder, and the components themselves are going to be called includes because we're including them with include syntax. We'll see that later. And the thing that puts it all together is a layout. We'll put a layouts folder in there. So we'll create a basic home page here for our demo. So I'm going to point this route to pages.home. So in the pages folder, I'm going to have to create a blade called home. So we'll go back to pages and create a new file, home.blade.php. And open that up with Notepad++. And we'll just do a basic Hello World app real quick. All right, so that should display hello world. If we reload this page, it's a little slow right now. Okay. Oh, there we go. H1 tag that says hello world. All right, so we know we got the root set up properly. So let's go and create some components. So in our includes folder, we're going to want a few different pieces. So that's going to be head.blade.php. And we're going to create a navbar that we're going to call nav.blade.php. And we're going to create a header to put at the top of each page. And a footer for the bottom of each page. All right. So there's our 4 components. So let's start with the head component. Open that up in Notepad++. So the head tag of the HTML sheet contains information like the meta tags, the title of the page, and style sheet links. So that's what we're going to put in this component. So we got the meta tags, the title of our page, Laravel Blade template demo, and I'm going to import a couple of Bootstrap CSS sheets to make our demo look nice. All right, so we're done with that. And let's move on to the header component. The header is just going to be an H1 tag at the top of the page that's just displaying, whatever, the title of the page, title of the app. So that's going to be at the top of each page. H1 Laravel Blade template demo. All right, and for footer, we will do a Bootstrap styled footer class that's fixed to the bottom of the page and has a text center tag or class created by Maurice de Vries. So that's going to be at the bottom of each of our pages. And last but not least, the nav bar. Let's open that up in Notepad++. And I'm going to copy in a basic nav bar here, styled with Bootstrap. So we get a nice looking nav bar with 4 links: home, to do, about, and contact, pointing to various routes which haven't been set up yet. But that's about it for our 4 components. Now we need a layout to put all the components together. So let's go up to the layouts folder and we'll do a default layout. So default.blade.php. Alrighty then. So our default layout is going to be this right here. So you'll see it looks like a regular HTML document. We got the HTML tags, body tags, head tag. Inside the head tag, we've got the @include syntax. So that's telling Blade that it needs to include the component at this destination. So in the includes folder, the component called head. So it's going to load head.blades.php, which contains all our meta tags and CSS information. It's going to get loaded right into the head tag of this HTML document. Then in our body, I'm going to load the nav bar at the top. Then we'll put the header next. And at the bottom, we'll put the footer. And in the middle here, we've got something called @yield. So @yield is saying that it's going to yield up that the right, let's say, to populate that with data or the template to some other web page or some other Blade. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. So the point of the yield tag is now we can have a whole bunch of pages like home and about and contact that all have the same head CSS, same navbar, same header, same footer, but the content in the @yield tag will be different. So let's create the content for our home page. So the way we'll do that is we'll just get rid of this example Hello World app, and we'll copy in, we need actually an @extends tag. So we'll tell it that it needs to extend the layout default. And then we're going to insert, using the section tag with the content label, something in between here. So in between the section tag and the stop tag is going to be what we're going to insert into the @yield tag of our layout. So inside there, I'm going to put the content for our home page. So we got an h2 tag that says homepage. I'll get rid of that for now. h2 tag that says homepage, and a list group of links styled with Bootstrap here. So we've got 5 different links that point to different websites that are associated with Laravel. And now this should be good enough to render in our app, because now web.php has a route pointing to pages.home. Pages.home is extending this layout, default.blade, which is importing all of our components. And home.blade is populating the @yield section with all of this code here. So let's take a look at what it looks like. So there we go. Got a nice demo app with a nice nav bar at the top that's styled with Bootstrap. So we know our head tags is importing Bootstrap. Our nav bar is working. We've got our header component right here. And at the bottom, we've got our footer. And right here is the content created by the homepage itself. All right, so that's the basics of how you put components together into a layout to display in a Laravel Blade template. You can get a lot fancier with this, putting components within components and so on. But this is the basics of it. So the next thing I want to discuss is passing and displaying data in the Blade template. So I'm going to go back to a home page. I'm going to put in, actually we need to pass something in first. So one of the ways we can pass data into a view is through the root. So I'm going to add an additional parameter here. It's going to be an associative array with the key name that has the value John. All right, so now we want to display that in our home page. So let's just put an h3 tag for John's name. And we're going to display that by using double curly braces. And since we have a key in the associative array called name, it gets rendered, represented as a variable called name in this homepage template. So that should be good enough to get a h3 that says John underneath the homepage. Let's test that out. And there we go. Works like a charm. Okay, now what happens if we're trying to display this parameter, but the parameter doesn't exist? So let's go back and delete that from the root. So now we're not passing in name anymore, but we're still trying to display it. Spoiler alert, Laravel doesn't like that. So let's try to refresh this. Yeah, there we go. Undefined variable name. So maybe we should check if the variable name is defined before we attempt to display it. So let's do that with an if statement. Let's go back to the home page, and we'll do an if statement with Blade. So the way we do that is with the @if tag. We put our if condition in here, and then @endIf for when we're done with the if statement. So the if statement is going to be if empty, the variable name, or sorry, if not empty, then we attempt to display it. Otherwise, we won't. So this shouldn't throw an error anymore. And there we go. It works. Now we're not displaying the name here because we don't have a name to display. So let's put the name back in and see if it still works. Laravel takes a second to update. There we go. We're back to John being there. All right. So let's change this to Maurice because that's my name. And we'll go back to the home.blade. So the next thing that I want to talk about is the unless tag. So it's kind of like an if statement, but reversed. So we're saying unless the variable name is empty, then we display this. So it should have the same functionality. Now it'll say Maurice. Yeah, there we go. Same thing. So what if we want to do a different message for different names? So let's do an if, else if statement here. So if name equals Maurice, then we will display this message. Else if the name is equal to Michelle, my sister. She's great, but she's not as good as Maurice. Else, for everybody else, we'll just display hello name. And then we need to end if. All right, now let's change the name to Michelle. Actually, let's keep it at Maurice so we can see that message first. Yo, Maurice, what's up, dude? Change it to Michelle. Give Laravel a second to update. All right, you can change the value now. There we go. Michelle's great, but not as great as Maurice. All right, so that's all well and good. But what if we wanted more messages for more different names? It would get kind of complicated to add more and more else ifs, so let's just convert it to a switch case statement. All right, so at switch, checking the variable name case, Maurice. We'll display that message. Ooh. At case Michelle. Then we'll display Michelle's message. And default, we'll display hello name at and switch. All right, so that should have the same functionality, except for the fact that switch case has a fall through. So what happens is Michelle's case gets triggered, but also the default case, we get both messages. If we want to prevent that, we can just add a break tag to the end of each of these cases. Don't think the default case needs it, but it doesn't hurt, so there we go. All right. So there we go. Michelle's great, but not as great as Maurice. Just that message. And just to show how easy it is to add a new case now, at case Adam. So Adam is going to get a message and an input button. So it says, Adam, my friend, how are you? And then there's an input for him to submit his answer. Let's test that out. There we go. Works perfectly. All right, the next thing I want to demo is a for loop. So let's go back to home.blade.php. We'll do @for and then @end_for. So our for loop is going to take the variable I equals 0. We'll do I is less than 5. Loop through it 5 times, and I increments each loop. All right, so what we'll actually do is put that in an unordered list. Add some bootstrap styles. Then we'll put the for loop inside there. So we can create a list element for each number that we're iterating over. So I'm just going to copy that in there. So we'll create a list with a bootstrap class, and we'll interpolate the variable I that we're iterating through. So that should generate a unordered list of items 0 to 4. There we go. All right. Now there's actual places in our app where a for each loop could be useful. A for each loop, actually, not just a for loop. That one of those places is right here, generating this list of links. So we'll need to pass in an extra array parameter for the list of links, the information for the list of links. Call that body links. And it's an associative array, so the key is the label that we're going to give to each of the links, and then the URL is the parameter, or the key and value. So the URL is the value. So what we're going to do is create a for each loop in here @end for each, and for each body links as key value. So we're going to do label as the key, and value is going to be URL. So for each of those, we're going to get a label and a URL, and we're going to create one of these list items. But instead of hard coding the URLs, we're going to pass in and interpolate the URL parameter. And we'll do the same thing with the labels. All right, so that should look exactly the same as before. Seems like it's working. And now we can easily add a new link to the list just by adding it to the end of the array. So let's go back to the array. We'll add a new one for Google. Let's do http://www.google.ca. All right. Now, just by adding that to the end of the array we're passing in, we should automatically get, because of the for each loop, a new link that leads us to Google. And there we go. Works perfectly. Okay. So there's another place where the for each loop might be useful in this app, and that's in the nav bar. So let's create a new class for navlinks. Okay. I'm actually going to get that code from my local machine. And we're going to pass that in along with the body links. So now we've got the same sort of associative array where we have the label and the root that we're going to link to. And we're going to set it up in the same way in the nav bar. So the reason why Blade is so good is we can see the template inheritance right here. So navbar already knows about the navlinks parameter because homeblade knows about it. And homeblade extends layouts, which includes nav. So navbar already knows about our array. So we can do for each navlinks as key value end our for each. And for each navlink, we're going to do one of those. All right, so instead of hard coding the route, we're going to interpolate the route param. The route variable. And we'll interpolate the label as well. So that should build our nav bar. And it should look and work exactly the same as before. Give Laravel a minute to update. All right, should be working now. And each of our routes and the buttons navigates to the routes properly. As you can see, the route is being added to the end of the URL, but because we haven't set up the routes, that doesn't actually work. But our for each loop does work, and the nav bar looks exactly the same as before. So the last thing that I want to do for this demo is to introduce comments in Blade. So the way you do comments in Blade is in my home.blade, I'm going to add a comment right here. So you want the double curly braces again with the double dash on each side. This is a comment. So Laravel is going to remove all the text within these tags from the PHP file before it renders it from the Blade text, from the Blade template. So what I'm going to do actually is just comment out this for loop that we did earlier, and it should just disappear from our web page. Yep, there we go. So that's commenting, and that's all I want to talk about for this demo video. There's a lot more to learn about Blade templates and how to use them. They're very powerful tools for building your Laravel applications. So I encourage you to do some of your own research and check it out for yourself. And that's our app. Thank you.